From the beginning, the textile industry was ever-changing and evolving, rising to meet the challenges that each new era of fashion trends brought. Though after the initial discovery of natural fibers, there was a significant lull in new fabrics. Fortunately, with the boom of the industrial age came a new chance to innovate and create. The first synthetic fibers were devised in the 1800s. They were designed to be a way of making textile production easier. The first artificial fabric created was a silk, as silk cloth was one of the most labor-intensive fabrics at the time. The first artificial silk was created by dissolving the bark of a mulberry tree to create a cellulose solution that could be turned into threads by pushing the liquid through small holes and woven into cloth. The first production of artificial silk for commercial gain was in 1894. This method of using bark to create man-made fabrics was also brought about the precursor to modern-day rayon, a fabric which closely mimics the properties of cotton, more breathable, lighter, and softer than other fabrics. The first fully synthetic fabric, one that had not come from a natural base such as wood pulp, was nylon, invented in 1931 by an American company called DuPont, which had spent the previous several years researching polymers and their use in creating silk fibers. It was known as a miracle fiber and quickly took over from silk as it was only half the cost. Thus, DuPont's nylon stockings quickly became a staple of every woman's wardrobe. Unfortunately, due to the Second World War, fabric innovation had to be put on hold as material became a restricted substance under Europe's commodity laws. As nylon was the new silk, the government seized much of it to go towards the war effort, putting it into the manufacture of parachutes for their troops. As such, natural fibers came back, as they were much easier to produce, and many women were already holding onto old clothes to repair and refashion. Following the Second World War and the subsequent removal of Europe's commodity control, a new wave of fashion began. As designers in Europe had spent years having to make the most out of the bare minimum fashion allowances, only being allowed to use a set number of standard issue buttons, zips, and no trims or frills, the removal of these fashion rations allowed a new wave of creativity to spring forth. At the forefront of this was designer Christian Dior. With his revolutionary new look, he changed the face of fashion forever. Seen as a celebration of the end of wartime fashion, Dior's designs incorporated voluminous skirts with layers of nylon and acetate petticoats, and the exaggerated silhouette of his padded jacket hips allowed women the previously lost luxury of willful excess, while still being relatively affordable thanks to the use of the cheaper synthetics. Modern day's more common fabrics were not invented until the 1950s, with acrylic becoming a cheap replacement for wool, and polyester, which while instrumental in the creation of nylon, didn't distinguish itself as a separate fabric until the 60s, where it became wildly popular in ready-to-wear fashion. The advantages of using polyester as opposed to cotton or other natural fibers was mainly the cost. It was a fraction of the price to create a bolt of polyester fabric compared to cotton. However, after much testing, polyester was also found to be incredibly stain-resistant and almost impossible to wrinkle, as it was a type of plastic. So it quickly became a staple of the industry. Its ability to hold unique shapes and forms also boosted its popularity within the fashion community, allowing designers to create silhouettes that had never been seen before. DuPont was again at the forefront of fabric innovation with the creation of spandex, or elasticine as is its more common name. The fabric is mostly known for its uses in activewear, particularly in the aerobics craze of the 80s. This petroleum product allowed for clothes that were skin-tight as to not affect mobility and range of movement, while being incredibly light and breathable, again at a fraction of the cost of organic materials. In modern times, it is highly unlikely to find an affordable item of clothing that isn't made out of at least one type of synthetic fabric. Unfortunately, we are only now discovering the negative impacts from the liberal use of these fabrics. The creation process is incredibly toxic for the environment, as well as the fabrics themselves. Synthetic fabrics burn quite quickly, and while organics will burn and flake away, as most synthetics are a type of plastic, they melt, causing much more damage to the wearer. Along with that, they are not biodegradable and will last in one toxic form or another for thousands of years. Though it has been a staple of the fashion industry for decades, the unsustainability of synthetics may mean that we will be seeing less and less of its use in the years to come.